I was just trying to make it home that day. That's it. Nothing dramatic, nothing special, just me, dead tired from drill weekend, driving through a stretch of southern New Mexico that's all flat heat and radio static, halfway between nothing and nowhere, when my gaslight came on, and I knew I wasn't going to make it to the next real town. That's when I saw it. This old busted-up Shell station sitting alone off the interstate like it got left behind when the world kept moving. Crooked sign, peeling paint. But the open light was still barely flickering, and I thought, good enough. Pulled in, parked by pump 2, and just sat for a second. Hands still on the wheel, air thick with that kind of heat that seeps into your bones and makes everything feel slower. I stepped out in my marine gear, black compression tee, dusty shorts, worn boots, hat turned back. And even though I was exhausted, there was still that thing in my chest that always watches, always scans, even when I'm just getting gas. Swiped my card, started pumping, looked through the glass storefront. The clerk, woman in her 50s maybe, didn't even look up, just scrolling her phone like her shift had already lasted too long. And some white kid stood by the fridge, earbuds in, zoning out like nothing in the world could touch him. And I wasn't trying to bother anybody, man. I was just thirsty, wanted a drink, a protein bar, and to get back on the road. I walked in, grabbed my stuff, paid in cash, said, "Afternoon," and she barely mumbled something back. No smile, no eye contact. Not that I expected it. I've lived in enough places and worn this skin long enough to know the look, the energy that says, "I'm not sure I want you here, but I don't know how to say it." And maybe she didn't mean anything by it. Maybe she did. I took my change, said thanks, and walked back out. That was supposed to be the end of it. Should have been. I leaned on the driver's side door, cracked the bottle open, took a long sip, tried to let the quiet settle, and then I heard it. That deep, throaty rumble, low and dirty and close. Motorcycles, more than one, and getting louder fast. I turned my head just a little, didn't react big, just clocked 5 of them pulling in. Harleys, loud as hell, all chrome and grime and ego, driven by men who looked like they wanted to be seen. Faded denim, patched-up vests, beer guts and busted boots. One with a Confederate flag stretched across his back like it still meant something proud. Another with rings shaped like skulls on every finger. And the one leading them, red beard, mirrored sunglasses. Grin that wasn't really a grin, looked at me just a little too long, then said something to the guy next to him and laughed like I was the joke. They parked sloppy, blocked off half the lot, left the engines running just to make sure everyone heard them. I didn't move, didn't say a word, just stood there sipping my water, watching the heat ripple off the pavement, telling myself, it's nothing, just noise. Don't let it become something it doesn't have to be. They stomped inside, didn't greet the clerk, didn't even look her way. One of them kicked the door open like he paid rent there, and the bang it made, or the way she flinched, I felt it all through my spine. They came back out a minute later with tall boys in hand, ready cracked open, drinking before they even cleared the threshold, louder than before. And then it came, "You lost, or what?" Redbeard said it like a challenge, not a question. I didn't answer. I looked off toward the road like maybe I was thinking about leaving, and maybe I was. I said, "You lost," he repeated, stepping off the curb now, slow, deliberate. I stayed calm, just filling up, on my way back to school. School, huh? Another one said, shorter, rounder, bad teeth and worse intentions. What kind of school lets in people like you? And that's when I knew it wasn't about gas anymore, wasn't about beer or boredom. It was about me, my skin, my silence, my presence in a place they thought I didn't belong. I took another sip, still quiet, still steady, not because I was scared, but because I'd seen how fast a moment like that can turn, and I'd learned the hard way that when you're the one people are already looking sideways at, you don't get the luxury of flinching. Redbeard pointed at my forearm. That real, or just something you got to impress your TikTok fans? I looked him dead in the eye. Did my time, still do. And for just a second, something shifted. Not respect, but hesitation. And I almost thought maybe that would be enough. It wasn't. Another one laughed. Marine, huh? Think that makes you special? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. They were close now. Too close. I stood up straight, set my bottle down, said, Look, I don't want trouble. You've had your fun. I'd like to be on my way. Redbeard grinned wide. Or what? I stared right back. Or you're gonna find out I'm not the one. And that's when he did it. He reached out, slow and smug, and slapped the hat off my head. It hit the ground soft, like it didn't matter, but I could feel every inch of air between us shift when it did. I bent down, picked it up, dusted it off like I wasn't mad, and said, real calm, you get one. The youngest of them, guy with the chain on his jeans and nerves in his eyes, shifted, mumbled, Rick, maybe we chill. But Rick shoved me, full palms, full chest, enough force to move most men. I didn't move. He blinked. And then I moved. I didn't yell. I didn't swing. I stepped forward, caught his arm, turned him around, locked him up like I'd done 1,000 times in training. It was quick, clean, and controlled. He was on the ground, choking on his pride, before the others even registered what happened. One rushed me. I stepped aside, redirected, dropped him too. Another raised his fist, but froze when I looked at him and said, You sure? He wasn't. Back up, I said, all of you. And they did. And then came the sirens. Sheriff rolled in. Older guy, worn boots, sharp eyes. He looked at me, then at them, then at the clerk, who finally stepped out and said, He didn't start it. I saw the whole thing. Then the couple in the pickup got out and said, Yeah, he stayed calm. They came after him. Sheriff turned to me. Name? Elijah McCall. You serve with Vasquez in Okinawa? Yeah. That's my cousin, he said. He always said you made him look lazy. We both laughed, just a little, like maybe that broke the tension. Another deputy arrived. Woman, sharp stance. You McCall? She said. My brother Luke trained with you. Said you tapped him out in 3 seconds flat. I nodded. Yeah, I remember Luke. She looked at me like she was proud, like she knew I could have done more. And didn't. You handled it right, she said. But the thing that stayed with me wasn't the fight. It wasn't Rick. It wasn't even the shove. It was the silence. All the people who saw it starting and waited. The ones who watched to see if I'd break. The ones who didn't say a word until it was safe. And maybe they think silence isn't a choice, but it is. Every time. So yeah, I drove off eventually. Back onto that hot, empty road. No music, no noise, just me and the hum of tires and the weight of everything they didn't say. And I wonder sometimes, if it hadn't been me that day, if it had been someone else, would anyone have said anything before it got that far? So let me ask you, would you have spoken up, or would you have waited too?